The detention bay of the Crithian warship Iron Talon reeked of ozone and fear. In the corner, chained to a reinforced bulkhead, lay a creature that shouldn't have existed. An albino dragon, its scales the color of fresh snow stained with violet blood. The beast's wings were folded awkwardly against a pronounced hunchback, and deep gashes crisscrossed its flanks where plasma fire had torn through flesh. Ray Levon descended the access ramp with his medical kit slung over one shoulder, his boots clanging against metal grating. The Crithian guards, insectoid beings with chitinous armor and compound eyes, parted reluctantly as he approached. "You're the human medic?" Commander Zithrak clicked, his mandibles twitching with obvious distaste. "We expected someone more experienced." Ray ignored the barb. At 28 standard years, he'd seen more battlefield trauma than most beings saw in 3 lifetimes. "Where's your medical officer?" "Refused to treat it." Zithrak gestured toward the dragon with one of his forearms. Dragons are protected under the Celestial Accord. An albino is considered cursed. Touching one brings catastrophe to the clan. "Superstition," Ray muttered, kneeling beside the wounded creature. Up close, the dragon was massive, easily 12 meters from snout to tail. Its eyes, pink as Terran roses, tracked his movements with startling intelligence. The dragon's breathing was labored, each exhale releasing small puffs of frost despite the ship's climate controls. Ray ran a scanner over its torso, frowning at the readout. 3 broken ribs, collapsed lung, severe plasma burns, and, his eyes widened, an infected wound near the spine that was pressing against the deformity of the hunchback. "How long has it been like this?" Ray demanded. 72 hours since capture, Zithrak said. "It was part of a raiding party that attacked our supply convoy. The only survivor." Ray's jaw tightened. 72 hours without treatment. The infection alone should have killed the creature. He looked into those strange pink eyes again and saw something that made his heart clench. Not the mindless rage of a beast, but the quiet resignation of a sentient being awaiting death. "I need these chains removed," Ray said. "Absolutely not." Zithrak's antennae stood rigid. "It killed 17 of my crew before we subdued it. Then it dies chained up, and you'll answer to the Galactic Medical Ethics Board for refusing treatment to a protected species." Ray's voice carried the steel of someone who'd argued with admirals and won. "Your choice, Commander." The standoff lasted 30 seconds before Zithrak signaled his guards. The electromagnetic shackles disengaged with a hiss. The dragon didn't move, too weak to attempt escape. Ray opened his kit and withdrew a hypospray loaded with a broad-spectrum antibiotic cocktail. Human medical science had one advantage in the galaxy: adaptability. Where other species specialized, humanity generalized, creating treatments that worked across dozens of biological systems. "This is going to hurt," Ray said softly, knowing the dragon probably understood Galactic Common. Most intelligent species did, but I promise I'm here to help. The dragon's pupils dilated as the needle pierced scale and muscle. A low rumble emanated from its chest, not quite a growl, more like acknowledgement. Ray worked quickly, cleaning wounds with antiseptic gel, sealing the worst lacerations with biofoam, and carefully, so carefully, probing the infected area near the spinal deformity. "The hunchback isn't natural," Ray announced, studying his scanner. "There's an old wound here, improperly healed. Foreign object embedded in the tissue." He looked up at Zithrak. "This dragon's been carrying shrapnel in its back for years." The revelation rippled through the Crithian guards. Even Zithrak's hostile posture softened slightly. Ray made his decision. "I need to operate. Remove the shrapnel and drain the infection. Otherwise, sepsis will kill it within 48 hours. "You can't perform surgery here," Zithrak protested. "If something goes wrong, then you'll have one dead dragon instead of one suffering dragon." Ray was already prepping surgical tools. "Hold it steady or get out of my way." What happened next would become legend in medical circles across 3 sectors. For 6 hours, Ray Levon worked with the precision of a master craftsman, his hands steady as he cut through infected tissue, extracted a piece of twisted metal the size of his fist, and reconstructed damaged muscle. The dragon remained conscious throughout, its pink eyes never leaving the human's face. Human endurance was another oddity in the galaxy, the ability to focus through pain, hunger, and exhaustion. Where other species would have collapsed or called for relief, Ray simply continued, his breath misting in the cold air that the dragon's body somehow generated. When he finally sealed the last incision with surgical glue, Ray sat back on his heels, exhausted. The dragon's breathing had already eased, the rattle gone from its lungs. The hunchback remained. Years of deformity couldn't be erased in one surgery, but the creature would live without constant agony. Infections clearing, Ray said, checking his scanner. Lungs reinflating. It'll need rest and proper nutrition, but it should recover fully. The dragon moved then, slowly raising its massive head. For a moment, Ray thought he'd miscalculated. That instinct would override gratitude. Then the creature did something that made every Crithian in the bay recoil in shock. It pressed its snout gently against Ray's chest, the draconic equivalent of a bow. "You're welcome," Ray whispered, placing a hand on the white scales. They were warm now, no longer fever-hot. Zithrak approached cautiously. "I've never seen a dragon show deference to any being, especially not to someone from a species they've been at war with for a decade." Ray stood, packing his equipment. Maybe that's because no one bothered to treat them like people instead of weapons. He met the commander's compound gaze. "This dragon gets transferred to a proper medical facility, full rights under the Celestial Accord and a review of its case. Or I file a report that buries your career." The Crithian's antennae twitched, the equivalent of a resigned sigh. "Humans, you're all insane." "No," Ray said, glancing back at the albino dragon whose pink eyes now held something other than resignation, something like hope. "We just believe every life is worth saving, even the cursed ones." As Ray left the detention bay, he heard the dragon's voice for the first time, a sound like wind chimes and thunder, speaking words in Old Draconic that the ship's translator rendered into Galactic Common. "The human carries no curse. He breaks them.